Welcome to Bitches with Beards. We're talking about bananas.
Bananarama.
Alexa, pause. Hello, and welcome to Bitches with Beards. And on today's episode, I asked a question: are we the temperance for the new generation? But what cocktails does one serve at these meetings?
Well, you can solve it if you have a lifelong bond from the 4-H and the FFA.
Indeed. We're the podcast that attempts to break down culture with all the elegance of two coastal grandmas.
But in truth, we're just a couple of bitches with beards.
I'm Max.
And I'm Daniel.
And we're live for the Diane Keating podcast studio in Haberdashery.
And we both have opinions, so let's get this party started.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh,
that was a thud.
That was a fad, wasn't it?
That was flat.
I've stolen one of Daniel's Olipop things he left. I'm like, I need some sugar today. It's just been a week.
The thing is, you didn't steal it. I've left it for 2 weeks now, I think. So
I left it for an emergency. I kind of hid it slightly. I do try and drink the soda waters. We've had a time, and we were meant to, I messaged Daniel today and said, can you come a bit earlier? We're meant to be going to do something. And then it's now 6 because we've just chatted about everything else. And then the thing that we were going to be doing was this jazz event in the Sculpture Garden in DC, which was very much looking forward to. And the weather came out yesterday, and it's just. But today, honestly, it's fine. I know that there is concern and considerations regarding how much sometimes even a bit of damp can, affect and damage. But honestly, an umbrella would have been fine. But it's cancelled and.
Yeah, it's been spiddly with the rain today because I was out in it earlier, and it was just annoying. It wasn't like torrential downpours by any stretch.
I just sort of now and the peeps who are meant to be going with are going to go to a bar, and I also want to go sit in a bar, Daniel. I just can't. I'm just so barred. I'm just so barred out, and it's nothing. They are lovely people. I love hanging out with them.
You just can't do a bar.
It's odd.
I get it.
Well, last night we were at
Were you at a bar?
We were at a pool party actually,
Ooh.
and I don't know. It was kind of interesting because we start off in the pool.
As
and
one
then
does at a
in
pool
party, and then the lightning came in, so we stood by the pool. Then we moved into they have a lovely decking, and then we eventually moved inside to the this because the weather transitioned, and actually that constant kind of movement, even in the pool, the shift. It was as a non-drinker.
It was active. It was engaging.
Yes.
It was social, and it just soothed your nerves.
Sitting sometimes in the bar now, and it's weird when you have. Do you get this? It's not so much you have too much energy slightly for the bar. Like I don't know. I'm a little bit like
It's a bit, for me at least, going to a bar. It's a bit of, I don't want to say it's what do I do with my hands, but it's sort of like everyone else is doing something with their hands, typically going up to their mouth, but I'm not doing it, and I'm like. And it's a very simple thing, but it's like, why am I not doing this? And it's like, oh yeah, I remember why I'm not doing this, but it's like, yeah, I feel like I also get annoyed in bars now because I'm like, oh wow, that person is really drunk and I am not to that level.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm not going to repeat myself or listen to this conversation for the third time when it was boring the first time. That's where I'm at.
It's definitely, oh God, we always talk about non-drinking, but it's definitely a conversation I've had to have more with the husband about it. And that's not at him, because he actually is drunk a lot less, and he's lost a lot of weight for it. He's looking fantastic. But is like, even he's tonight, we were talking about going out, and I said I was just really looking forward to going to this jazz in the garden. I mean, there's always a bit of debate as to whether they are playing jazz. It's within the jazz mindset of
it's within the jazz family,
and you can. You're not meant to take. You can take alcohol in if they don't know the bags. You can buy alcohol in there.
But I was just say, or you could buy alcohol in there.
You can sit, have a drink, and then just listen. And I was, even though it would have been hot, was generally just looking forward to sitting down outside on some grass, listening to some music, or just having a reason to not engage in a conversation so much, being like, okay, I'm just listening, it's okay to chill, I'm that. And now I'm just like, I don't know what it is, but I'm like, I just don't want to be inside. If I'm going to be inside, it's weird. If I'm going to be inside sitting down, I need to switch my brain off.
Yeah.
If I'm going to be, I can't. If I'm going to have my brain engaged, I need to do something that's a little bit more active.
Well, I think the key thing is that you brought up is setting. The setting is outside. The setting has a live music element that's going on. You don't get that at the bars here in DC. We do not have a live music bar culture here in DC.
So Pop is trying. Pop, we were there on Sunday, and they've got a live jazz band going on now, but they're rare.
I was about to say, but that's the exception and not the rule. This is not like Nashville or Savannah where you expect to have a live performer in these locations. You don't have that here in DC, so it's a different energy at a bar than it is outdoors with someone performing.
Yeah, and it's always interesting as well when you go to these places, and this will be interesting if anyone's listening and has an opinion on this sort of thing, is what is the line between background music and a performer? Because I've been in bars where, there's people kind of playing like an accompanist, or that sort of vibe is there just some music in the background, and you're like, well, they're just in the background while we have a chat, But then other times you've kind of gone in and going, wait, are we meant to not talk while they're playing? And you're like, shit, are we being rude?
So my line for this, and this is not a great example here in DC, but in New York, is if I buy a ticket to go see someone perform at like Dizzy Gillespie's at the Lincoln Center, I have purchased a ticket. They are sort of center in that room. I'm not going to talk while they're performing. If you are off to the corner, off to the side, like say at a winery that we have often had and someone is playing guitar, I feel fine talking. You're not the center of attention. You are off to the side. Your music is floating through. People didn't necessarily buy a ticket to come see you perform. I'm not saying that you're not a good performer or anything like that, but I think it's a question you have to ask is, what is the intention of going to this location and this establishment? If it's a show, don't talk. Yeah. Not a show, go ahead and have your conversation.
Well, I actually have something to add to talking during something when I get to my cinema this week.
Oh, no.
Yes. But on that note, Daniel, how was your week?
Are you sure that's not going to be a petticoat lane?
No, I actually really want to go. It was so funny in a really bad way.
Oh, okay. So this week, I have two things. So this week was hot as hell here in DC, and I do mean miserably hot, triple digits. Heat index was well over 100. I just wanted to. I could not take off enough clothing. We'll put it that way.
Mm-hmm. That's saying something for you,
right? It was one of these. I'm walking. Literally took an Uber from the office. I was just like walking from the sidewalk to my front door, and you've seen it. And I was just like, I can't take enough off. Like, it's too hot. It is miserable. It's atrocious. I think we're in a pattern of, we're still going to be elevated heat, but should be better next week. The other thing was today, was doing research at the DC Archives. It's a rather unique building that I know that there's a lot of news that's being generated about it because it's been removed from the DC budget to construct a new building. I'm going to say this. Yes, they need a new building. 100%. I found a signed letter by Lady Bird Johnson. Touched it. Saw the signature. It was a wet signature, as in it was her hand that did it. And I was just like, oh my God.
As opposed to a stamp.
As opposed to a stamp, or as opposed to like, here's a document and here's a photocopy of a signature. This was, she signed it, and I was like, oh my God.
How did that feel?
It was, so I have a signed book by her, and it was different because the book was like from the 1980s, and this was like an actual like letter she wrote to like a member of the DC government about beautification that I didn't know existed, and I was just like, oh my God, it explains so much. So it was a little bit of like a validating moment for me. I was just like, yay! Which, guys, I understand this is very nerdy, and no one is going to be happy for me. I'm happy for me.
I'm very happy for you.
And that's all that matters. Max has his Star Wars. I have my Lady Bird Johnson, and we had a moment today, and it was a good moment. Like, yeah. So that was my week. It ended on a high note because work-wise, it was just, HVACs going down and kitchens being flooded and museum objects getting wet and just one thing after another.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was a week, to say the least. How about you? How was your week, dear?
It was.
I know about part of it. So
Well, yeah, no, we've had a few kickbacks. We had a few, other stuff. I had lunch with a mate, and they're going to put me in contact with someone, but it's very hard. And it's actually something I want to talk, bring up, and let's just debate today. Let's just discuss this. So job hunting, you're very reliant on people in the networks, and
whether you want to be or not.
And so I'd applied for a job at an organisation in DC. I've applied for 2 jobs there. One of the positions is very high up. It was a leap and a push. And then the other one was very much a max job.
Yeah, it was on par with what you were doing in your other organization.
And this is I only messaged them today. So it turns out my friend knows the person that got the bigger job. And I'm like, well, actually, I applied for another job that will be underneath them. So can you reach? He goes, oh my God, yes. And so he dropped an email in. But I've had this a lot recently where people are like, yeah, no, we know people, we're going to put you in contact with people. And they have. And then the other person hasn't responded.
Yeah.
Now, my vibe is, look, I'm not going to come across as an entitled piece of shit with this. I understand that people are busy. And not everyone can jump to it and get you something. But when my next door neighbour was interested in work at NDI, fuck it, might as well say that now because they barely exist.
They're on life support.
And I'm not employed by them. I asked them what they were interested in doing. I said, give me your areas of expertise or whatever. And she did. I went to the relevant teams. I met my contact. I spoke to people. They all said, yeah, no, we'd love to hear from her. And I matched them all up. I think one person said, oh, don't think I can help. I said, that's fine. But I went ahead and I went and got my neighbour and spoke to them. Realised that she couldn't afford to keep living in the house. And so basically said, no, I don't think I could work for NDI on that thing.
Yeah.
But this is the interesting thing now is I went out and I reached out. Now, I would never have put her straight in contact with them. I checked with them before I did it. I know that's one thing. But what I find is very interesting at the moment is that I've been put directly in contact with people, CC'd into emails, hey, this is my friend Max, they'd love to speak to you about this and so and so, and heard nothing. If you had done that if someone had contacted you, and I know someone, occasionally people come to you, and then you had said, okay, I'll put you in contact with so and so. I know you would then talk to your friends.
Yes.
Bob, and say, hey Bob, did my friend reach out to you? Oh yeah, I heard from them. Oh, were you able to help them? And if they turn around and said, no, I never actually responded, what would you say to that?
I would say, could you at least be courteous enough to do a response?
Yeah.
I would actually call them out and be like, could you at least be courteous enough to say you're not interested, you don't think they're a good fit, they're not a good candidate, just so that they're not waiting on something. I would actually, this is me being a little bit of a, mean person, but I don't think it's being mean, it's just being polite. You owe people some sort of response, even if it's, we don't think that we could use you. People deserve to, not be hanging on to the glimmer of hope that they could be part of this organization or anything like that.
And this is sort of the interest, and this is the vibe that it is, and the hubs is getting slightly frustrated with this lack of communication that's going between, and I find that, and I said I do truly appreciate everyone that's helped me out, everyone that's got back in contact. I know not everything has worked out, and not everything is going to work out,
right?
But I've found it so fascinating how people have received an email from me and just not got back in contact, not even said, thank you for reaching out. Unfortunately, at the moment, we're really not in a position to help. We're going through so-and-so, but please keep trying. If another job comes up, feel free to reach out and we can see if we can help you out.
Yeah.
if someone reached out to me and I was really truly busy, I would maybe try and have a feed. But sometimes I've just said a little white lie and said I'm very sorry, and it is I'm not. I am not. So that was just what I was going to ask about that, and I was curious if I was feeling like I was.
No, and I'll say for me personally, whenever I am copied on those emails and someone's like, "Oh, they'd really like to talk to you about career advice regarding X, Y, and Z, or if you have an internship," I will at least respond back, being like, "We are so interested in them, doing this." I will at least set up a conversation with the individual, but I'll at least prep it with, "We do not have a position, but I would love to have a conversation with you to give you advice, let you know how you could work yourself into something in the future, and just to get a feel if something were to come up."
Yeah.
But I think that just might be a me thing.
Well, this is the other thing that, what is frustrating me at the moment is, I applied for a role. I had a couple of interviews for it, and then they got back to me and said, "We're not going to pursue you further because we've actually talking to other people," and then they reposted the role.
Yeah, that.
And so I emailed them back and repitched myself and what I felt. And I said, "This is what I feel you need. This is what I can offer." Again, I'm not expecting to hear anything, but it's just. And then other times where,
and because I know the organization,
like
it's not a situation where it's a government hire to where it's like, "Oh, we didn't like any of the candidates, we then have to take it down and then put it back up," or "No one was qualified, we have to take it down and put it back up." This is a private entity that doesn't have that restriction. So it's shitty on their part.
There's been, and also like jobs that haven't even closed out the original listing are then, reposting, and I had one job to like I had applied for it. I actually got like a direct email back from an individual saying thank you for your application. Heard nothing. We applied for we reached out to them and said, "Hi, I'm very, very much interested in this role," and then it came up yesterday on Indeed. 2 months later, they haven't even closed us out on this one. So I reapplied. I went, I'm going to go through a different one. And what's ironic is it's a union.
Oh my gosh.
And you're meant to be for the people, and you're treating people like absolute shit. It's so frustrating.
Well, it's frustrating. It goes into my philosophy of like, if they're doing this to you during the hiring process, do you necessarily want to, which I know.
Yeah. And you do end up like that with certain things, and you sort of end up in this sort of, I don't want to be part of this one, but at the same time is, we need to keep a roof over the heads.
No, I totally understand
that's how
that.
People end up getting treated like shit at bad companies. But anyway, aside from that, last Saturday was solstice, so we ended up down at the Smithsonian, the Buildings and Industries, I believe it was. An Arts and Industries building. They had like a dance party. We were there for an hour and a bit, and had some like a bit of a boogie. Very warm in there though. They were like,
there is no AC in that building.
Yes, and
they believe that hot air rises, and I'm like, it doesn't rise that much.
Yes, no, and then after that. And then we've had a couple of pool parties. Our friends, they do a yearly like post Pride sort of one. It was fun. It got a bit messy towards the end, and it's a DC party, so everyone was naturally talking about the outbreak of World War III. So my anxiety was kind of up
through the roof.
But no, we did have a nice time, and then we had another one. Went to the suburbs last night and had a nice time before the storms came in.
Oh, very nice.
So hopefully we've tried to keep ourselves a little bit doing some variety, trying to keep ourselves engaged. I feel also that I have been vaguely social. But
you have been social.
The weather has not been as bad as DC is suggesting. So shall we take a walk around Ina's garden?
We should take a walk around Ina's garden. So we are having this evening a Kernza Golden Brew. It is a Patagonia and Deschutes Brewery collaboration.
I was about to say, I looked at it from a distance and thought that looks like a Patagonia logo.
It is very much. You can tell where their
it smells nice.
Contribution is. It's a golden brew.
Actually, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's not that bad. Like I would definitely get this again, and I would sip it. I could picture like having a hot dog with this for some reason.
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah.
I'd have this one again instead of. It's
not The Athletic. We'll call it out by name. It's not The Athletic. It's definitely, like I said, I could have a hot dog with like some sautéed onions with this.
I mean, thank you. That's delicious.
Yes.
So with that, shall we move on to the news?
Yes, and this is the portion of the podcast where we talk about things that are gay adjacent, or just a little bit camp.
Well, there was a lot this week.
It just sort of kept coming, and I think I had most of my stories by Monday, which was highly unusual, and then they still kept coming today.
Yeah, I had some weird ones. I thought I had a lot, then I didn't have a lot, and then I was going to do one about the tourism, which we're going to move to culture this week because it sort of shifted over. First one is Diane Paulus will direct the New York City's Phantom of the Opera revival Masquerade. She is known for her 2013 Best Direction on her work on Pippin, and then also she's done Jagged Little Pill, Hair, Porgy and Bess, and Waitress.
Very interesting.
It's very interesting what they're going to do with this. I think it's very similar to Jellicle Ball in that I'm guessing they're going to do it a little bit. Apparently, her husband's very much into interactive theatre.
Yes. So I have a friend who lives in New York City, and she's very much following this and trying to get tickets. And she literally sent me a message just like, what is the most you're willing to pay for a ticket for this? And I'm like, $250, $275. And she's like, great, locking it in on that. There is a dress code. Mask will be provided, but there is a literal dress code, aka Truman Capote white and black ball, essentially, is the dress code for this. And you are expected to show up, and I think they even said they will turn you away if you don't show up in the right dress code. And I was like, okay,
interesting.
Yeah,
I love Phantom. I love all, like Lloyd Webber stuff. I mean, some of his stuff is weaker. I'm not going to lie. And Stephen Ward, who is a musical that never made it over here, it wasn't his strongest one, and it was a very odd storyline as well. But it's such an interesting Cats. I know people do not like the storyline for Cats, but the music is really good. You'd be very hard to turn around and say there's nothing in it. There's no earworms, and
there are.
When you see the clip when they did the Jellicle Ball, it looked stunning what they were going to do with it, and I think that they're sort of. And the trouble is I've seen always gets back to Cats. Is I took the Hubs to see it at the Kennedy, and it was still the same production, and it's the same with Phantom to the point you can see the paint chip, and it's sort of like, well, I mean, I know they jazz up Phantom. I know every time they do a touring production, they use new technology to try and recreate it, and it's getting there. Unfortunately, I do like Lloyd Webber. He does find a way to basically make it travel better so then he can reduce it down on the main production. Yeah. Which, again, he's trying to keep his stuff going. He's trying to keep people coming in. It's cost changing that. We have to, do that.
Yeah.
But his stuff has a good foundation, so I'm excited to see what he's doing with Phantom.
Yeah.
It's going to be very interesting. I think Phantom is such a good one to do,
Oh, yeah. I think Phantom is a little bit more approachable than Love Never Dies.
Yeah. And I think that's going to go, and I think you're going to have a really good story, and they're going to do it. The narrative will be good. I'm curious to see the level of interaction they're going to do with it.
Yeah.
Because I know it's a long show, and I don't know if I can see Wishing You Were Somewhere Here Again. Everyone's standing there getting a bit edgy there on there.
Well, I mean, especially if you're, as the audience member, in a mask and in your dress code, I agree with Wishing You Were Somewhere Here Again. Maybe not.
But anyway, that's going to see. Well, I'm curious to see, if you get tickets, how that's going to pan out.
We will see.
So, talking of directing, Denis Villeneuve is going to be directing next James Bond movie. He is famous for the sequel to Blade and also Dune. I think, he's stepping in, like we've had Sam Mendes in the past.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember who did the last one, but they've had some strong directors.
Oh, they have.
I'm very curious to see what he's going to do with it. I reckon they paid him a fucking fortune to step in. And curious to see, because he is working so hard on is it Children of June, I think, is the next one.
I think so. Yeah.
It's going to be very interesting. So I'm excited for him.
I just want to know who Bond's going to be.
Yeah. I think it's in safe hands in terms of direction there.
Absolutely.
I also do think that he's someone that has delivered a lot of money on very unique properties. The Dune movies, him as blockbusters, but they are very odd books. They are very. It takes a lot of artistry to get them to where they've got to.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of faith in him. So I think he's going to. Then he's not a studio puppet, and I think that's what I'm excited about.
Yeah. Though I will say, the Fleming stories are. They're Fleming. They're okay.
Someone has said is he going to do Moonraker?
Oh God, don't do Moonraker. But I also don't know that he needs to start over with Casino Royale. I don't know.
Yeah. The rumor is now that if you haven't got enough of Pedro Pascal at the moment,
God,
that The Mandalorian is going to be a trilogy of movies.
Oh,
I'm curious to see where they're going to go with this. I've been watching, as you know, I'm watching a lot of Star Wars at the moment, and
No.
I know, but it is. I've loved The Mandalorian, but I do think that the Marvel Disney properties at the moment are Endgame's help, and I want to know, like, if they're going to do a trilogy of Mandalorian and Grogu, what is it going to build up to the
what is the end game?
Well, Ahsoka's got a second season coming out, which is going to deal with Thrawn coming back to the main galaxy, and he's the big villain. And this is set in between the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy. So at one point, Thrawn is who the Grand Admiral is going to have to do a significant attack on the New Republic, which I think will be decisive in how it shapes the First Order. So whether or not they're going to basically use these properties, which will include Mandalorian, Boba Fett, and Ahsoka, which has also brought in a de-aged Luke Skywalker, and use these as a way of like leading into what then becomes a sequel trilogy, which I think is a good idea if they can do it, undo it. But
because there is that gap in between.
Because these are what they call it's the Dave Filoni. He created with Lucas Clone Wars, and then he did Rebels. He created these characters. Then they gave him and they built and.
So this is his universe within the universe.
And Jon Favreau, the director of it, has come in and worked within his sandbox, and they've created this one. But I do think that if they're going to do Mandalorian trilogy, that should be sort of it, and they should then leave it and then start afresh. I'm still kind of disappointed that the Acolyte isn't getting a second season. It would be nice if they could finish that off. There was a big thing at the end of that, but hey, they're going to focus on movies.
But timing wise, it's not as pivotal.
No, it's the High Republic, so it's 200 years before. On that note, we're going to finish up by saying the BBC apparently said it's going to be mindful of spoilers in future. There was too much leaked about Doctor Who straight away after the episode aired. I think just the fact that people got like updates on their phone as the episode was finishing. And they're saying our journalists decide what is news. It was very spoiler heavy, and they could have literally just said, and they said there were spoiler warnings. I said
you could have waited a few hours.
No one even knew the regeneration was going to happen.
Yeah.
So they could have each said Doctor Who, shock ending to Doctor Who, which I mean most people with a brain cell would guess that. But hey, the BBC said they're going to be more mindful in future. On that note, Daniel, what's your news, my dear?
Well, something that is less mindful is Hetero Awesome Fest in Boise, Idaho only had a few dozen individuals that actually showed up for it. Shock horror. The event was billed as the alternative to LGBTQ Pride. Let's see. Some of the highlights of the event included that Mark Fitzpatrick, a heterogender-normative... Mark Fitzpatrick, who is... Try that again. Mark Fitzpatrick decided to host the event to celebrate gender norm roles. The big downside to the event was when pro-queer singer Diane Hamrick was wrestled from the stage for singing a trans song. There were remarks about the lack of racial diversity at the event. Imagine that. So, to be determined if this happens again next year.
Well, it sounds like a banger. I think we're all going to get tickets. Wristbands for everyone.
Wristbands for
Wristbands
everyone.
and fast passes.
All right, on to our next bit of news. The Chicago institution Sidetracks has submitted a bid to open a branch of their bar in the Chicago O'Hare Airport. A decision will be made in early 2026 as to whether or not it is coming to an airport. So, Max, I have a question. When you're in an airport, do you want to be at a gay bar?
Honestly, I mean, it's not really anything. I want to be at a bar that stays open past 9 p.m. I want a bar that... I mean, it's such a weird thing to say. If they're going to give an LGBT or queer business owner like a franchise, like there or something, that's fantastic. It's a captive audience. I think it will be something that's definitely that you want money to come back into the community. But I also, I kind of feel that any bar, you want to keep people drinking, but you want to kind of keep them calm. And I do kind of feel that it's not so much the gays. It's people, oh my God, gay bar here. You're like, you don't want them people then getting on a flight.
Right. I can see tons of flights being missed.
Yeah.
Or what's happening in the bathroom. Like, it's as
I said, if they
can of worms.
If it was a case of they wanted to franchise out a space and it was a gay bar that happened to take it over, but the intentionally put a gay bar in, I don't know what the reason for that. My first question would be like, okay, but why is this needed in this space?
Yeah.
And if there was genuine like people saying, well, when you come here, we don't feel safe in so and so and so and so, I'd be like, then that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, especially at an airport.
Yeah, and when there's a lot of gay people that like to travel.
Yeah. All right. Well, on to the next little bit. So everyone loves to hate Ryan Murphy if you're Ryan Murphy, according to him. So recently there was a critique about the costume choices for American Love Story. Apparently the promo shots were released.
Yes, I saw them.
Yes. And a lot of the fashion community has been really hitting back on the fact that the Carolyn Bessette Kennedy character, who was known to be a minimalist icon, the outfits do not match anything that she was photographed in by paparazzi or in personal photographs. Ryan Murphy has essentially punched back and stated, well, our costume department's just doing the best that they possibly could in, sourcing some of these costumes from that time period. However, it was brought up that there's a very famous photograph of Carolyn Bessette Kennedy with a Birkin 42 bag, and she was photographed with a Birkin 33 bag within the promo. However, in yet another promo photograph, the correct bag was seen with a different outfit. So they're...
Yeah.
Eventually, the critics were like, try. You clearly got the bag. Match it to the right outfit, but also get the outfits correct because you got to do justice to the character.
I feel that just especially after how much the Swans went through stuff with Feud, is that it's like Ryan, I don't know how to put a finger on what Ryan's form of entertainment is, because he does do some interesting stuff.
Right. He does take liberties.
He does take, and that's literally words in my mouth, like that one. And it's like, well, I get it that you want to kind of have some fun in that sandbox, and you did it with Hollywood, even though I don't really still quite get what the thesis for Hollywood was.
Yeah.
And I do know, and just. Capote and the Swans was such an interesting one that he went in a direction that I do not know what the fuck he was doing by the end of it.
Yeah, I think the problem with Murphy is that he takes what he chooses to take liberties on. You're like, why was that the thing that you chose to be creative with?
Yeah.
Like, there was so many other aspects that you should have taken or that were questionable or unknown, but you chose something that was known, and you're like, we're going to change this.
Yes.
Which seems to be what's happening with American Love Story. So
yes,
we'll see what happens.
We shall see.
I don't know that I'm going to be watching it, but we'll see. All right. If you need a palate cleanse from all that, you can go see Wanda and Marianne at their farm stand, because apparently Goodbye Earl, the musical, is in production, or in the works. We'll put it that way. It will be a jukebox musical featuring the songs of the Chicks. Taylor Jenkins Reid is tied to the project to do the storyline. So we'll see. We will see.
Interesting.
Yes. It was also announced that Foster's and Partners were selected as the winning entry to do a memorial to the late Queen Elizabeth II. It will feature 2 gardens on either side of a tiara-inspired bridge that is based off of her wedding tiara in Green Park. There will also be statuary of the Queen and her late husband, Prince Philip. We're waiting for the design to be released in January of next year, we believe.
Perfect. Wonderful.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, should we take a break and wait for it during our break?
Yes, we should. I need to top up.
Yes. And we're back.
Yes, we are.
Sun's still up.
Ish.
God, I can't believe we are past the halfway point of the year.
I know.
It's a bit depressing, isn't it, in a way?
Yeah, I feel like I've accomplished a lot so far this year.
I haven't shot myself in the face, so I'm guessing that's an accomplishment for you, me.
It is. It's very true.
That was a terrible thing to say. I got in trouble with the hubs today because a friend of ours he's going through some shit. His work. He was in government. That's all we should say there. Mm-hmm. And he said, I feel like he messaged and I said, how are you doing today? Because there is a lot going on in the government at this moment.
Yeah.
And then he said, oh, you know what, and he's, you know him, he's so chill, and he's just like, whatever, if my job goes, I'll just get hit by a new opportunity. And I just went, I'm at the stage of hoping to get hit by a bus. And his wife went, that's horrible. And I went, well, yeah, I'm sorry, not everyone shares my, and the hubs came on and went, Max, no, don't joke about that. And I'm like, well, buses have to arrive first. Anyway.
It's a joke with layers. There are layers.
It's been my sainted grandma, Nanny Grace, always used to say, always change your underwear. You never know if you're going to get hit by a bus or not.
My mom would always say the same thing, but except it wasn't bus. You never know when you're going to be in a car accident and they have to cut you out of your clothes. Wear good underwear. And you're like, how many times have you been cut out of a car?
I don't know. Goodbye, Elle. Anyway.
Right.
Your mum may have been culture for the Dixie Chicks, but what's been culture for you?
So culture for me this week. So it was hot here in DC, and I, for the most part, had my rule of I did not turn on the oven this week until I did last night. So it was...
The roast chicken was shit, but apparently you felt cool.
I felt cool the entire time. The chicken would just never cook. That being said, it was a salad week. So there was chicken salad that was had on croissants. There was a lovely Tuscan salad, which was tomatoes and some balsamic vinegar and some artichokes and some red onions and cucumbers with some olive oil and some seasoning. Perfection. And then there was a Thai glass noodle salad, which was everything I wanted it to be. Oh my gosh. Had some peanut sauce in there. Yes.
Keep going. I'll ask you a question after you're done talking about it.
Oh, no. So it was peanut sauce, and it was cucumbers, and it was peppers, and it was...
It sounded delicious.
It was wonderful, and put a little bit of cabbage in there, so there was some crunch, and there was some lime juice. Oh, it was everything I needed, and I think I might make it again this week.
And that's a question I have for you. Now, this is going to come across as a cunty question.
Oh, yeah.
Daniel.
Yes. Max.
You are single, and you cook for yourself.
Yes.
You cook some absolutely delicious sounding food.
Mm-hmm.
And I know from the recipes that you use, I would say, some very specific ingredients. Mm-hmm. And a lot of these ingredients, me who cooks for a husband, again, you're lonely. Joking. No. How do you deal with wastage? How do you make sure that you use these up? Because there are apps as well now you can kind of throw stuff in.
So I will typically make 2 portions, which I think is fine, and you can eat one for dinner one day and one for dinner the next. Okay. That's how I do it. I don't like bringing leftovers into the office. I have this weird rule of like, No one wants to smell fish in the office. Sometimes people don't want to smell your leftovers in the office too. So I will be like, all right, there's enough for 2 days. There we go.
So you just make sure it's portioned out nicely.
Yeah, I just make sure it's portioned out enough that there's 2 days, or if it's one of those days that I'm on my kicks where it's like, it's a salad with a piece of a wedge of salmon, I make sure that everything is consumed that day, and then we move on to something else day 2. So it's either you make enough for 1 or you make enough for 2 because of the ingredients, because glass noodles, the way they're packaged, it's enough for 2 people.
Yeah.
It's never enough. It's never going to be 1 portion. It's going to be 2, so you have to plan accordingly for that.
No, I'm curious because you do use some. You do some quiet. I don't want high end sound snobby, but you do stuff that I know. I wonder. And if you do, you make sure you just get all the ingredients used in it, or
well, this is where you have to play around, and you only get enough fresh ingredients that you can make the 1 or the 2.
Yeah.
So you're not going to buy 5 limes to do this. You're going to make sure that you have the 1 lime that you need. And if you have another lime, it's going to go for another dish. Or you use dried herbs. That's my key. Or you get enough sauce that has an expiration date to where, I can make this dish, 4 times over the next month, and I will use this bottle of sauce up or something like that. You have to think and plan ahead. Just a little bit. So it takes a little bit of forethought, being a sad, lonely individual like myself.
Not sad and lonely, my God.
I am just the saddest and loneliest ever.
I think I've been a bit of a bad influence on the hubs on that level, because I'm away Monday. I'm going down to see Matinee Idol to help him on a project. And I said, what are you up to, Hubs? And he went, I have got a night of nothing planned. I'm like, usually that's a far cry from the past.
Yeah.
Anyway, apart from that, sorry, Daniel. I was just curious. I'm always so curious about your lovely, delicately these flavors. I can just imagine the flavors in your salads as well.
Oh, there's always something. There's a little hidden something to make it interesting, because you can only eat salad so many times before you're like, ugh.
Yes.
So you've got to switch it up. All right. Other than that, so that was food for the week. Drink of the week was the Perrier Peach Seltzer. Oh my gosh, it just hit the spot. Songs of the week. Mine by Kelly Clarkson, sort of inspired by our conversation last week on the podcast. Mr. Electric Blue by Benson Boone. It popped up in my algorithm. I don't know if it was released this week as a single, but I have listened to it a couple of times, sort of unintentionally and intentionally. So it's been good. And then also Favorite Daughter by The Lord. Very good. My album of the week was actually Virgin by Lord. Very good. Highly recommend that album. If you haven't listened to that already. Musical of the week was A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder. I think it's very interesting, because I know you have a rule with musicals that you like to see them and then you'll listen to the soundtrack. And this one was definitely one that you were missing part of the storyline because you weren't seeing it on the stage. And it was like, someone just listening to this musical would have no clue what is going on.
I'm weird. If it's an older show, I might more likely like. Chess is one, but I think if I'm going to go into a show, if I know I'm seeing it, I will not listen to it. But other stuff does creep out a little bit.
Yeah, it does. And then television for the week. The show Outrageous. Started that one on BritBox. Didn't you start it as well?
Which one's Outrageous?
It's about the Mitford sisters.
Oh no, I've not had a chance yet.
Okay.
So I went to Overcompensating. I don't know too many.
Okay.
Is it worth it? How's she doing?
So I think Bess is doing quite well on this.
Yes.
I have a qualm with casting, and it's only because of historical accuracy. So it's me as the historian who's just like, oh, this detail is off. So I'm going to say this. The Mitford sisters were known for the very stunning shade of blue eye color.
Yeah.
Like a gray blue.
A signature, shall we?
It was a signature like eye shade, and I believe every single one of them had it. I don't believe any of the cast are actually blue eyes.
You think it should have been in there, included in there?
I think it should have been included in there. I think they should have tried to have done contacts, just because it was they are photographed and known for their eye color. Like any of the photographs that you have of Unity, or any of the photographs of Nancy or of Diana, they are like known for these beauties, or even Debo, this blue eye shade.
Yeah.
And it was missing, and I was just like, ooh, ooh, this is a little bit. Ugh.
I get you on that one.
Yeah. But other than that, I found it rather interesting. I felt like the first episode was setting everyone up. So it was sort of, I don't want to say a throwaway episode, but it was just like, oh, here's a lot of backstory of who this person is and who that person is. The second episode was much better.
Nice.
Like it got its pacing on the second episode. So I would say watch it at least to the second episode.
It's definitely... Oh, yeah, I try and...
Yeah.
It's a bit like how Marvel do it now.
Yeah.
Hey, we're going to do a 5-episode premiere. Great. So we know it doesn't kick off until the 5th episode.
Right. So it's... so I believe 3 episodes are released now. So they're doing 1 episode per week, but they released the first 2.
Yeah. Nice. I'll give that a go.
Yeah,
I don't know... Yeah, the Hubs is... Working in late is a good one. I had to sit and watch. I don't really watch it on the Alexa.
No.
On that bitch.
On that smart device. What was culture for you this week?
It was a bit of a quietish one. For cooking, I did last Sunday did a tofu and tomato sauce. It's tofu. But I did a real basic sauce. I looked at... talking about you and your ingredients, I was like, okay, Stanley Tucci tomato sauce. And then went, okay, that looks delicious. Not going to buy that. Yeah.
So it's a different sauce completely.
Yeah. but Matt came over to quickly have a quick drink. And he went, that smells delicious. I'm like, it's the butter. I felt so bad with the butter. But you have to put the butter in there.
You've got to indulge a little bit here and there.
And then I did on Monday, so I had the cinema. So I did a ginger chicken. I don't think we do meatless Monday, but it's hard to do meatless food in a slow cooker, and it's just not. It's a bit of a
tofu just doesn't work in a slow cooker. If I'm gonna do meatless Monday, I don't want to steal your thunder. I have to do like all vegetable dishes.
It's all beans. Like you can do chilies and stuff. But no, so I did a ginger chicken, but I didn't have any lemon, so I used lemonade, and it came out delicious.
Oh, was it already made lemonade? Or
yeah, it was a crappy Kirkland stuff we have at our parties.
No,
and I got it out the fridge. I was like, okay, poured that in, and Hubs was like, ooh, yeah, it's because it's the sugar.
I was going to say you need the sugar, which helps brown it.
Yeah, so I've done this before. Just if a recipe though calls for sugar, you do not put sugar. Actually, I think I put, because it was honey. It was a honey ginger. So honey has a different flavour to sugar.
Yes.
So you have to put honey in, but only a little bit. Then that. So that came out real nicely. Yeah. Then did a tofu stroganoff. Now Daniel and I had a chat before this. Tofu's been a big ongoing thing for me. I really like it. The Hubs really likes it as well. We soak it in olive oil, sage, and soy sauce, and that's the basic of it with smoked paprika. We've been trying to, now you can deep fry it, or deep fry or shallow fry it, or saute it. Yes, that is fucking amazing. But in my personal opinion, I've been talking to Daniel about this one. Sauteing it is, yes, I think you get the best flavour. Otherwise, bake it for 45 minutes. It sounds excessive. It will not burn on the inside. 420. Pour the flour, whatever, into the soaking thing, or drain. So what I usually do is I will drain the tofu and I'll keep the juice. Then I'll put the flour in, mix it around, create the paste. It looks gross.
No, you're coating it in a roux. Is what you're doing,
and
as opposed to dredging it.
Bake it for 45, and it comes out delicious. Television this week, I didn't think I had a lot of television, and then I slowly kept adding to it, so it's all on one line. Ironheart came out. It's the new Marvel show. It's not an Iron Man spin-off. It is Riri Williams creating an iron suit, but it's not a spin-off per se. It's an own entity within a similar franchise.
I was going to say, is it in an alternative universe?
No. So she was in Wakanda Forever.
Okay.
She's a tech genius from Chicago who is basically trying to be the new Tony Stark and helped out the Wakandans in Wakanda Forever, and is now trying to. She's just got kicked out of college, and she's trying to, for variously funny reasons, and is now trying to build her suit. So it's been we really liked it. AI is mentioned. It's wait to see it really buzz. If it's going to take off, but I really liked it so far.
Okay.
Side note: your Fantastic Four trailer came out, and it's looking so good. And that photo of his ass in those trousers.
Oh my gosh! But also, my girl's looking...
She's looking good. And they've finally worked out how the pregnancy is going to be in this one.
Yes.
Which I knew... Franklin Richards is a character. And I was a little bit like watching it, and they mentioned in the first trailer that she's pregnant, and I'm like, she can't be pregnant for all the action because it's going to just look really like that. And you see it more and how it spans out. So very curious about that one. Resident Alien started again. That first 2 episodes were great. I think it's just such a great show. Alan Tudyk is so amazing in it. And just the cast. I think it's great.
I mean, his timing is good in anything he does.
He's such an odd actor in that he's very underrated. What is funny is the Peacemaker series of John Cena has a opening sequence. It's always done to a big rock number, and it's a full-on dance routine of John Cena and everyone. And when they had to learn it during COVID, the choreographer sent everyone the video of her husband doing it so they could learn the steps. Alan Tudyk's her husband. And they're like, why the hell is Alan Tudyk doing this? So I'm like, yeah. Big bit of TV this week. The Gilded Age is back.
Oh, how was the first episode?
Brilliant.
Good.
Do you watch it usually, or do you wait?
I binge, man. I binge.
Thingy's going to be in it a little bit more, I feel, this season.
Which Thingy?
She's like the cousin of Kerry. Oh, is it?
It's not Carrie Ellis.
But you know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly who you're talking about. I can see her. Kelly O'Hara.
Now, what's her? She's got a funny name. I can never remember her name, but she's going to be in it a bit more, I think.
Oh, Aurora.
That's it.
Yeah.
Aurora Fane, that's it.
Yeah, Aurora Fane.
Someone put there's a huge poster of it in Times Square, and someone panned over it, and they put all the Tony Awards of each actor. They go, and it turns into they just went, "Yay, Broadway Summer School's back!" Because Audra McDonald's on the posters in this one. Basically, they go, Broadway Summer School's back.
It's true, though. Everyone's so decorated in the show, which I'm not complaining.
I think, and even down to like the butler, the younger one, their butler is the original Arthur Dent in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Like it's a really quite phenomenal cast.
I mean, it's one of my feel-good shows as a historian. I think that's probably the reason why I like it.
It's finding itself a lot. I definitely feel like it's finding its rhythms, especially because the upstairs downstairs of it all, but split between 2 houses.
Right, so you see 2 different sides of the coin.
Yeah. And so I think that was Julian Fellows is an amazing writer in my eyes. I do really like him, but he's very old school and he writes his own stuff, which obviously is what a writer does, but it is kind of like, I feel sometimes he could bounce off people a little bit.
Yeah.
But I do feel he's got his rhythms. It's very Downton, in ways, and I won't give anything away. One of the butlers gets like a letter and they go, "Oh, what's the letter?" "Can't it be good news?" And he puts it in his pocket. I'm like, that is so Bates. That is Bates and Anna. They're done. Let's move on.
Someone's going to go arrested, So anyways.
So for movies, Revenge of the Sith was excellent. Had a bit of a tear in. Oh my God, I forgot how much Ewan, and I only saw it like 2 months ago in the cinema. Ewan like fucking eats at the end of it. I stand for democracy. I mean, the way his voice modulates is, I'm like, fuck, you really did give it your all. Like, if I'm going to leave Obi-Wan in this one, and I was like, but I've always known he was good in it, and he's good in Attack of the Clones, when he's like, "You will be expelled from the Jedi Order."
Yeah.
I love that bit, but I'm like, Jesus fucking you. And I went to see 28 Years Later. Excellent. Like, it's probably one of the best horror films I've seen.
Oh, okay.
It's like, and the thing about the 28 movies is that because they're zombies, they're not zombies, they have a rage virus that's just hyper aggressive, they're feral. It moves so quickly that they can basically contain it. They've made it, it's written so it can contain in the British Isles. And so the idea is in this one, so the first one was about just the 28 days after it. The second one, the weeks, is basically the idea is they think they've contained it in there and they're trying to re-release people, and it obviously doesn't work. And then in this one, they've kind of written around the ending of the second one and contained it to British Isles, but the idea is you cannot go off the British Isles. So there are communities, but they will never be rescued. That is as far as they are considered. And it's about them on the island. They go onto the mainland. And just how they've done it is very, very clever, in my personal opinion. I think that it's bleak and hopeful, but it's not. It wasn't when most zombie movie sequels will go in the find safety destroyed. It's very weirdly shot that uses a Rudyard Kipling poem through the opening of it. Boots. Yeah, it's really quite weird. So I just generally give it a go. If you haven't seen the other, see the first at least, give it a go. I personally loved it. This, sitting in the cinema, I went to an earlier showing because we had drinks after, and there was these two old ladies behind me, and they did not shut up the whole way through. I know to said shut the fuck up, but I also do not like saying it to old people. I do have a vague amount of respect for them, and but they were talking about the movie. They were like, "What's going on here?" I'm like, "I want to. We can hear you. You know, we can fucking hear you." And even at the end, they were it was getting to the end. I'm like, "You need not to be," and they were like, there was something that was said, and they were joking and laughing. I'm like, come on, like, we really, this is not cool. And I was like, so if you're kind of old, I get that sometimes, and it's very sweet, they're going and using local cinema, and they're trying to do this, and they're trying, and they're bringing business, but and they're picking movies, they hadn't seen the original, so they were a bit unsure what they were seeing. I'm like, honey, you can't do this.
Max, you don't always have to be inclusive. Sometimes bad behavior is bad behavior, and you don't have to justify it. It's just bad, and people should be better.
They should. Talking of bad behaviour, we have come. Oh God, it's 50. Oh God, we've had such a good chat today, haven't we?
We have.
This is where we see what culture is for everyone else, isn't it? Really?
Yes, this is where we check the feeds, test the moods, and we ask the question: what is gay culture?
Bad tourist, bad tourist, bad tourist.
Yes, which ironically struck the week that I'm like, I need to plan a trip.
Which is why when you said to me, I need to plan a trip, funny you should say that. How do you? So, if you haven't been following it, places like Barcelona are having protests against tourism.
Barcelona, Lisbon, Venice, Paris, I think at one point was having, but they're protesting over tourism.
Yeah, it's over tourism. It's not, as far as we are aware, about xenophobia, racism.
It's more about, just being inundated with tourists because it's the destination to go to, and local culture is not thriving.
It's struggling. Rents going up and access to housing is becoming a problem because people are buying stuff up for Airbnbs, and they're just saying it's starting to kill the cities. It's like, and I don't know if that's a feast or famine thing as well. They're getting a lot in, and then they just can't keep it under control. And
well, I mean, if you think about this, if you have ever been on a Caribbean cruise, don't get me wrong, I love going on a cruise. I love the Caribbean. If you have seen one island, you have seen them all, as in, like, the food that you're going to eat is all going to be the same. The knickknacks and bric-a-brac and the souvenirs that you're going to buy, all going to be the same. It's going to be, just a different logo or something on that. The thing that is different is going to be the scenery and the natural beauty, but culturally it's very homogenous, and you're like, oh wow, we have gone to another island where everyone behaves and looks exactly like this other island. Oh look, I can get this shirt that says Cozumel as opposed to San Juan or something like that. I don't know, it's the problem.
It is hard as someone that's lived in London. And it is there's a lot of tourists, but they are needed. They keep the shows going and everything. But at the same time, I've also seen that shift in it. Like, I know you know where to go in London, but if we went out together, I'd get you out to Clapham more. But at the same time, I know some lovely bars in Soho. Like, I generally do. They're not very. I think sometimes the Hubs gets a bit of a dirty look of his accent. I'm like, no, he goes, no, I'm married to a Londoner, sort of thing. And it is tough. Cities do rely on tourism, but if they're getting to the point where it is killing the city, and there needs to be, and this is where they are. I know places are trying to bring in certain levels of regulation and trying to limit it. It's very hard to go down that route because it can start getting quite nasty, and decisions have to be made based on facts that people aren't ready to make decisions about.
Right. But I will go back, and I think that the other problem is like the homogenization to where like, oh, we are catering to this American tourist that is coming here. We have to have hamburgers and hot dogs on the menu or else they're not going to eat. And it's, you know.
Well, save the British, the Spanish islands all have fucking full English breakfasts.
Right. And you don't have that local cuisine anymore. You don't have the thing that made that place unique because they are catering to the tourists, and one by one, the places get replaced to where there's another burger joint. I think I saw Shake Shack in London the last time that I was there.
Yeah, that started.
I was actually a little bit offended at how many of them I saw. I was just like...
They pop up like herpes.
They popped up, but I was just like, I am in London. I don't want to see an American establishment here. I'm here to have British food, and I ate at British locations the entire time I was there. I refused to have a Shake Shack.
Yeah, Five Guys popped up as well. I mean, that was a slow burn, but they are starting to come over, and a lot of that is because there is like a curiosity about them. Yeah. It's just it is tough. When I went to, I never remember. I've been to both Menorca and Mallorca. I can't remember which time I went. I think I went to Menorca, my parents, and Mallorca, my mates, and we were at an all-inclusive. That was we were put in that because there was a sewage problem, which worked out in our favour because we got a lot of free shit. But that was going to the breakfast in the morning. There was like they did have like a little counter with like local meats and cheeses and stuff, and I was always, "Ooh, looks nice." And then I had one mate, former mate, who then went, "Oh yeah, my mum told me to keep away from the foreign foods," and I'm like, for fuck's sake! First of all, we're now 20s now, so let's just all grow up. But yeah, and it was barely touched, and I was like, well, I like it. I don't give a shit, and it's killing it. It is, and it is sad. And then the story that came up was in Italy. A tourist trying to recreate the pose of a painting backs into it and damages it
because they were being stupid and were taking a selfie.
And it's a sort of like, and again, I always say, just because you're not from here doesn't mean you're non-corporeal. We can't walk through you. You've got to behave, and
you have to be aware of your social surroundings, your contacts.
I think as well it does concern me where these protests can be taken. I would be lying if I said I think we're on a slippery slope.
Well, we are on a very slippery slope because they could easily turn.
But there are just calls to why some people are getting very upset. So I see where they're starting. So I do think that, I think there needs to be greater understanding of what makes a city, and it means that there needs to be local leaders who are ready to stand up and maybe some tough calls. For instance, like the French have very strict rules about importing of foreign movies, and they don't. I think they are very limited to what they can show in the cinemas, and this has always encouraged the French film industry, which is incredibly strong.
Right.
And I think now you've got the rise in streaming services and access to foreign movies for them. It means that they can grow their own industry and people can still have access to the blockbusters or whatever they want to see.
Right.
There needs to just be some steps taken to preserve a culture, and that's not to say that people can't be there to deny people access. They've just got to come in with the respect. If they go, well, where's so and so? Well, that's back in your country.
You're in our country.
This is what we eat. This is what we drink. And I think, and I said, it is something they're going to have to really battle with. But I can understand people's frustrations, and I think that we have finished with people that travel a lot, and the way that they travel is very British, and they love the theme parks in Florida, and they post up saying, going, "Oh, getting that Florida feeling." I'm like, what? Lack of women's rights. And the way I see them travel, it's very British. And not in, I don't think they're over, but they're clearly very touristy, and I don't like being a tourist. I like visiting. I don't like being a tourist.
I like immersing myself.
Yeah,
respectfully into a culture.
The map away.
Put the map away, but also take a cooking glass, go to local theater production, experience the culture, go for a walk through the downtown, get lost.
I like an art gallery because I like seeing.
Yes.
I like seeing. Australia's very interesting for art galleries because you do see some of the early interpretations of the vistas they were first imagining, and especially actually you can get it over here as well. How exaggerated it was because people had not seen anything of that scale before, and it's really quite breathtaking.
It's the landscape tourism aspect of it. But I will say this, living here in DC, I bemoan high tourist season. Like, there are times of the year that I absolutely hate it here. Cherry blossoms. I'm going to call a spade a spade. I hate it.
It's also a lot of it's the and how they access the metro, and it's like you've never seen a train before, and I'm like, right. I mean, obviously, if you're from Virginia, maybe you haven't, but hey.
But it's the behavior. Like, I get it. Like, selfies everywhere. Constantly asking for directions when there is a sign pointing where to go. And I'm like, have you forgotten how to people? Have you?
Yeah, have you?
Have you?
Have you? Anyway, Daniel, should we move on to the end of the episode?
We should move on.
What direction is the end of the episode in? Is it left or right from here? Is it next to the monument or next to the White House?
It's to the White House if you turn around and keep walking 4 miles that way into the river.
All right. Well, I have a question, and I'm going to get the answer I finally wanted. Daniel, do you have a gagged and goop?
I do have a gagged and
Yay!
goop. I have a late-breaking gagged and goop, as in it broke yesterday. So it'll be old news by the time this episode goes out. Anna Wintour, stepping down as head editor of American Vogue after 37 years.
Now, I do believe you used a different term, stepping sideways.
Well, I actually, yes, I massaged that phrase. I said she's stepping sideways because she's still remaining at Condé Nast as one of the chief creative officers, I believe.
Yes.
Who is going to be in charge of material and content for all of the other publications as well and the general direction of Vogue. So she's stepping down as editor, but she's not leaving.
Her standards will still be there because she does have incredibly. She knows what she's doing.
Yes.
She has incredibly high standards, and
Very
that's
high
what
standards.
we want.
Yes, but it's the first time that I've never known Vogue without Anna Wintour. First time in my life. It's a brave new era, and I don't like it, Max.
Now, is it?
I don't like it.
Does it mean Jacqueline's going to take over?
Jacqueline.
Or Nigel?
It means Nigel will take over.
Because
it means Miranda Priestley will finally come over.
Now, I heard that Anna was the first. Her first cover had jeans on it, and that was the first time jeans were ever on the cover of Vogue or something.
I believe so.
Yeah.
She was also instrumental in having the first man
on
the cover of Vogue. That was Richard Gere with Cindy Crawford. She's had Michelle Obama on several times. Her covers have been iconic. They have spoken and essentially held up a mirror to the American lens.
Yeah.
So it will be interesting to see the direction that the institution goes. And I use the word institution, that is Vogue.
I do think it's still in her hands.
It's still in her hands, but it will be interesting to see who comes in after, because 37 years is a long time to shape the fashion industry, and she shaped it.
Yes. Do you have a word of the week?
I do have a word of the week. It is ago wilt. It is unnecessary fear. I should have no ago wilt about the sidestepping of Anna Wintour.
Do you have Petticoat Lane?
I don't have a Petticoat Lane this week, other than actually, I do have a Petticoat Lane. I lied. Why do people store museum objects in kitchens? I don't know.
My Petticoat Lane is... Daniel, do you think we've covered everything?
My dear, we have barely set the agenda.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Boom.
Oh, that was a good one.
This has been a Bearded Bitch production recorded in a Diane Keating podcast studio in Haberdashery.
You've been listening to The Bitches with Beards. I've been Daniel.
And I'm Max. A big thanks to you all for tuning in and giving us a listen. Don't forget to rate, subscribe and review the following on Twitter, X and TikTok, where you can find us at Bitches with Beards.
Please remember that only a mother could love our views and opinions, and they reflect us and no one else.
We'll hear you next week unless we're cancelled. Cheers.